guys, Mimi G here of MimiGstyle.com, and today we're going to be doing a sew along of one of my new pre-spring simplicity patterns, pattern 8547. Now if you're new to sewing or you just need a refresher course, make sure and watch the Sewing Basics video linked in the description box below. Watch that, then come back and sew along with me. Okay, we're going to start working on our dress for 8547. So one of the beauties about this dress is that you can color block it however you want. You can make every section a different color. You can make the entire dress out of just one color. You can do what I did here and just do two colors, or like I said, you can use multiple colors. So really that is up to you how you want to color your dress and what pattern pieces you want to use for what color. I'm going to be using three colors in this sew along. I'm going to be using a gray, an army green, and sort of a navy blue. So on the back of the pattern envelope, as usual, you're going to see your fabric suggestions and of course any notions that you're going to need. In this case, you're going to need coordinating thread and a invisible zipper. Now let's go over the pieces you're going to need to cut out. So you're going to cut out pattern piece number 3, and you're going to be cutting out 1. You're going to cut out pattern piece number 5, which is our neck binding, and you're going to be cutting out 1. You're going to cut out pattern piece number 2, and you're also only cutting out 1. You're going to cut out pattern piece number 6. This is our sleeve, and you're going to cut 2. You're going to cut out pattern piece number 8. This is our skirt yoke back, and you're going to cut out 2. You're going to cut out pattern piece number 4, which is the bodice back, and you're going to cut out 2. You're going to cut out pattern piece number 1, which is the front right bodice, and you're going to cut out just 1. You're going to cut out pattern piece number 7. You're cutting 1 on the fold. This is the front yoke. And last, you're going to cut out pattern piece number 9, which is the skirt front and back, and you're going to cut out 2 on the fold. Okay, we're going to start with pattern piece 1 and 2. You cut just 1 for each of these. And now we're going to go ahead and attach. You'll notice that we have some notches here, so that's what we're going to be using to align our pattern pieces. Okay, we're going to start with piece 1 and 2. Now I want you to go ahead and reinforce the center front, just sewing about 1 inch on either side of that. And now we're going to go ahead and pin pattern piece number 2 to pattern piece number 1, making sure to align your notches. Now go ahead and go to your sewing machine, and I want you to stitch across using 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Do not press. Okay, now where you reinforced at that large dot, you're going to go ahead and clip, but don't cut through your stitching. And now we're going to pin pattern piece 3 to 1 and 2. So first I'm going to go ahead and match, making sure right sides are facing. I'm going to match my notches. I'm going to pin at the shoulder. Okay, now we're going to be stitching, pivoting at the dot, and then working our way up the other side using 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, I'm going to start at the top of one end and backstitch. Now I'm going to put my needle back down, backstitch, and that just makes it a little easier to get over that little point. Give it a nice press. Make sure your seams are nice and flat. Now go ahead and grab your back pieces, pattern piece number 4. And with right sides facing, you're going to go ahead and pin at the shoulder. And it has a deep V in the back. Now go ahead and stitch across the top using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, now I want you to go ahead and press up 3/8 of an inch along your neckband, and now we're going to go ahead and pin it to our neckline. So you should have had some dots that you marked onto your binding, and that is sort of an indicator of where to place your binding on your shoulder, so you want to make sure that you have those markings. So I'm going to start by pinning my center front. Should have a little dot there. And we're pinning the non-folded or pressed edge. I'm going to place my other dot at my shoulder. I'm going to pull just a little bit. Now using 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, we're going to stitch our neck binding onto our neckline. Okay, back stitch the beginning and at the end. I want you to go ahead and make sure that you pressed your seam, you pressed out your neck binding, and now what you're going to do is you're just going to take the folded edge and you're just going to turn it over so that it just passes your stitching, and then you're going to go ahead and pin it in place. Continue folding and turning and folding until you've pinned your entire neck binding. Okay, now once you have it pinned, you're going to go ahead and stitch along the edge. Okay, now you're going to stitch carefully along the edge. You can use the same color thread or you can use a contrasting color. Give your binding a good press. Once you've given your binding a nice press, go ahead and pin and sew your side seam. So right sides are facing, pin along the entire side seam. You're going to pin both sides. Now go to your sewing machine, you're going to stitch both side seams using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, now I want you to go ahead and grab your sleeves. So set this aside for just 1 second. And what I want you to do is I want you to fold with right sides facing and pin. And go ahead and stitch along your underarm seam using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. And you're going to fold, pin, and stitch down your other sleeve the same way. Okay, I went ahead and stitched my sleeves. So I'm going to turn one right side out and go ahead and grab your bodice. And I like to pin at my underarm first, so I like to match up those seams. And then I'm going to go ahead and align my single notch to my single notch. Align those double notches. I'm gonna align my shoulder seam and my dots. This makes it really easy to attach inset sleeves. So if you don't mark all your dots and your notches. You're just making it harder for yourself. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and stitch all the way around. You're gonna use 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so I'm gonna start at my underarm seam first. Back stitch. Work your way around slowly. You're gonna stitch around your other sleeve the same way. Okay, once you have your sleeves on, you can set this aside for just a sec. Go ahead and grab your front and back yokes. With right sides facing, you're going to place your back yokes over your front. We're going to pin our side seams. And I want you to go ahead and stitch using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. You're going to do both side seams. Okay, once you have your yokes front to back sewn together at the side seams with right sides facing up, you're going to go ahead and place your bodice over the top, right sides are facing again, and you're going to pin at the side seams. Continue pinning until the entire waist is pinned. Now go ahead and stitch down using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, we're going to go ahead and insert our invisible zipper. So we're going to go ahead and pin first. So I'm going to pin at my waistline first because I want to make sure that my seam lines match. I'm going to align my binding, pin in between. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to stitch 1 inch from the bottom here using a normal length stitch, about a 2.5, and you're going to back stitch. Then we're going to switch our needle width to a basting stitch, and we're going to baste from that inch all the way up until we reach our binding. Okay, so using a normal length stitch, 2.5, I'm going to back stitch at the beginning. I'm going to stitch using 5/8 of an inch for about an inch. And now I'm going to switch to a basting length stitch and continue. Now I want you to press the seam open. Okay, now with your invisible zipper facing down and the center of your invisible zipper along the center of the middle of your seam line here, you're going to go ahead and baste down one side. You're only working on seam allowance, the rest of the dress is to the left of me. Now you're going to do the same thing going up the other side. Okay, now I want you to go ahead and remove that basting stitch that we created. Okay, you can go ahead and open your zipper and try and open it as far as you can, which means if you can get your little zipper pull inside, that'd be great. So you can open up the zipper all the way. And now I'm going to switch to my zipper foot. And now I'm going to stitch close to the edge here, and I'm going to be pulling my coils back as I sew. Make sure you're using your normal length stitch again. And now you're gonna do the same thing to the other side. Now you can go ahead and close up your zipper. Okay, once you have your zipper closed up, you can go ahead and cut off the excess zipper. Make sure its zipper is pulled up before you cut it off. Now we're gonna go ahead and stitch the remaining part of our skirt to our yoke. So grab your dress and set it aside for 1 second, and then grab the bottom portion of your skirt. I cut front and back out of different colors. You can do both the same color, whatever you wish. With right sides facing, you're gonna go ahead and pin your side seams. And you're going to do the other one the same way. Now go ahead and go to your sewing machine and stitch both your side seams using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and attach the bottom portion of our skirt to our yoke. So I'm going to leave my skirt wrong side out, and I'm going to slip my dress to the inside. I'm going to align my side seams, so the side seam, right sides facing, of my yoke to the side seam of my skirt, and pin. And then do the other side seam. I'm going to pin my center back and my center front. Make sure you align any notches. Okay, and now we're going to go and stitch all the way around using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, I'm going to start at my center back. I'm going to back stitch. Okay, once you've attached the skirt portion to your yoke, all you have left to do is to finish the hem of your skirt and the hem of your sleeves, and you're almost all done. The last thing I'm going to show you is what to do with your zipper that's extending. I always leave mine extra long because it's easier to work with. And so what I do is I just cut the tip, I fold it down, and then I'm going to go ahead and hand stitch it. So you could just pin it in place. And then hand stitch it down, and you're all done. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this sew along, and remember to follow me at Mimi G Style on Facebook and Instagram, and make sure and visit the blog mimigstyle.com. Until next time, peace.